What up, man? This is part 4 of the Bankroll challenge. About to play this 1-3 session right now, buying it for 300 as always, and we're gonna run this up and get to 10K. Let's get it. Alrighty, so for the first hand of the day, let's get right to it. We're looking at King Queen off in the big blind. There's 1 or 2 limps to me. I raise it up to 15, and we're off 3 ways to the flop, which comes 3, 4, 6. So not really the best flop. That's like a limp calls range right there. So I check, it checks around, and then the turn is a jack. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a stab out there. So I bet 15 and everyone folds. Not too much to that, but always good for your first hand that you play to book the win. So in this next hand, it folds to me. I am in the cutoff, and I decide to raise to 15 with Queen 9 suited. Pretty standard play. Trying to get the small blind and big blind to fold so I can take down the small and big blind uncontested, but they end up both calling. So we're off to a flop, which comes King, King 5. It checks to me, and I decide to bet 15. The small blind calls, and the big blind folds. So now we're off to a turn, which comes a jack. It checks through. I don't want to put more money out there. It's a good chance that he has a hand he doesn't want to fold. So the river is a deuce, and he bets 20. And at this point, because I checked on the turn, there's no reason why I should raise here to try to get him to fold. So I just go ahead and decide to cut my losses, and we fold, and we're off to the next hand. Alrighty, so now we're off. We have a semi-premium. We have pocket 9s, and of course, I'm going to raise it up to 15. I get the button to call, and that's it. And the flop is Jack 7-3, and I decide to down bet to 10, and he puts in a call. Now the turn is a jack. That's a pretty good card because I know that he doesn't have a jack, and he's not going to think that I have a jack. So if he has a 7, he'll probably call me down light. And so I decide to bet 25, and he decides to stick around and call. So now I'm just hoping for a blank river, and that's what we get. It is a 3. And so now there's no point in trying to go for a check raise. I need to bet my hand. If I check, he's going to check it back instantly. So I'm pretty sure I have the best hand, and he'll raise me if he has a jack. So I decided to go for a pretty good bet. I bet out for 50, and he actually considers it for a moment, so I know that he wasn't on no type of draw. So I'm really rooting for the call now. I know that he has a hand that I beat, so I'm thinking he probably has some type of 7, maybe pocket 8s or something. But he decides to go ahead and fold. He does tell me that he had a 7, but my line was just so strong, raising pre and then going bet, bet, bet. But nonetheless, you got to bet your hand because he was going to check it through if I didn't. So it was good to see that one go through, and I like that. I decided to go for 3 streets with a, I guess a semi-marginal hand on that board. So off to the next one. All right, so in this next hand, it's not too much going on with it, but we have pocket 8s on the button. There's a undergun limp and a +2 limp. So when it gets to me, I decide to raise to 15, and they both call, and we are off to a flop, which comes Queen 7-5. It's a pretty good flop for pocket 8s. I mean, you're going to see it over more times than not. So only one over. I'm just going to go ahead and bet 15, and they both fold. So not the most interesting hand, but, in poker, a lot of these hands are the ones that actually add up to your win rate. So it's good to go for that C-bet and not check it through, scared of that queen, and letting another overcard come and giving somebody a reason to stick around or outdraw you for free. So to the next hand we are. All right, so I know the last few hands have been rather mundane, but this one is a banger. We get pocket aces in the small blind. There's an under the gun limp, and there's one more limp in between. So when it gets to me, I'm going to bump this thing up. I'm going to raise it a little bit more because of all the dead money. So we raise it up to 20, and it folds to the under the gun limper, and he decides to stick in the call. We are off to a flop. It is Queen Jack 4, rainbow. And so now I'm just going to bet the same thing I bet pre. So I bet 20, and then he jams all in for 75 total. And of course, there's nothing really to do here. I mean, you don't always love getting jammed on, but we decided to call. And oh my God, my heart drops when the turn is a queen, and I already know that I'm beat. And then the river is a 10. And I'm just like, wow, there's like almost no way I win here. But he actually shows that he had Jack 7, so he jammed with second pair. Yeah, that's why you shouldn't make big folds in these low stakes, because people will just get impatient sometimes and then just say, hey, if I make a pair on the flop, I'm going all in. So we call, we win, and it's good to get that nice little pot coming our direction. Let's go. All right, it seems once again we are here to the worst played hand of the day, and it always seems in my latest sessions that it is with Ace King. I don't know why, but there's two limps. I'm in late position. I raise to 20. The button calls, and the middle position limper decides to fold. So now we're off heads up to a 10, 3, 5 flop with two diamonds. So I have two overs and a backdoor nut diamond draw. So I decide to bet 20, and he sticks in the call. The river is a 9, so now the board is getting a little bit more connected, and now I check, and he goes all in for 37. And I think for a moment, and for some reason, I don't know why, we all have this thing in live poker. Every once in a while, you just think that somebody is just trying to blow you off a hand with nothing. And so you're thinking, oh, well, I have the best non-paired hand. And so I decided to stick in the call, thinking he just has nothing. And he ends up showing me he has queen 5 of diamonds. And to add insult to injury, the river is a queen. So he had a pair and a flush draw on the flop. He goes all in with it, makes two pair at the end, and I'm going to give a little bit of the table talk. I try to make it seem like he got lucky on the river, when in all reality, like, I was always behind and I was drawing very slim. Oh my God. Nice hand. That's sick. But yeah, this is the poorly played hand of the session, and I know people always comment on these hands and be like, "Oh man, that was so horrible." But I'm choosing to upload these hands just to let you know that I'm a human, just like everyone else, and we all been at the poker table and made things like this. So this is just me being fully transparent, showing y'all the good and the bad, and I guess in this case the ugly. So on to the next hand. Rant over. All right, so the hands from this point forward are from another session. I didn't want to post a 7.5 minute video. Wasn't that many interesting hands in the last session, so I'll have the stats from each session at the end of the video, and I'll tally it up. But here we are with Queen Jack of Clubs on the button. There is a cutoff limp to me, and I raise it up to 12. Big blind calls and the cutoff calls. The flop is Jack 4 deuce, and when it checks to me, I decide to bet 15. They shouldn't have too strong of a hand here, but I do get a caller in the big blind. So now the turn is a queen, and I have top pair. So when he checks to me, I want to solely target his Jack X holding, so Jack 10, Jack 9 suited, whatever he might have. And so I decide to bet 35, and he does fold. You could say I could have bet smaller, maybe targeting like his pocket 5s, his pocket 6s, but that's not the hand. I'm trying to get more value than that. So if he had a jack, he would call more than likely. But either way, as played, we win the pot, and we're moving on to the next one. All right, so moving right on along, we have king, queen offsuit. We are in the low jack, and there's one limp ahead of me, and I decide to raise it up to 15. The hijack behind me calls, and the limper decides to complete. So we're off to a flop which comes 9-7-4. When it checks to me, I could be putting a C bet because they're probably not going to have a strong hand here. And so with that being said, this time I elect to check, and the turn is an ace. So that's a beautiful card for my range, not exactly my hand, but when it checks to me, I'm going to size up a little bit on this bet. So I put out 35, and the hijack calls. So when he calls, I know that he's the one who spikes the ace, and so the river is a 5, and I could be trying to put out a really, really big bet of, let's say, 100 plus to maybe make him fold his weak ace. But like I always say, man, in low stakes, good luck trying to get these people to fold their top pair. And so I check, and he checks,
and he actually does show that he had a6, so he did spike it on the turn, and it's not really too much going on. Maybe I could have c-bet the flop and he folds and I take it down, but a lot of people in low stakes like to float with aces, and he did with the 6 have a backdoor straight draw to go with it, so he probably would have pilled one time anyway. But let me know what you think. Should I c-bet the flop? And either way, we're on to another hand. Alrighty, so strap in your seats. This is going to be a wild hand with a wild ending. We're looking at the new generation's favorite hand, Ace 5 suited. My favorite suit is clubs, so here we are. We are under the gun and we raise to 20 over the straddle. The cutoff calls, and of course the straddle is going to call to protect. And the flop is so beautiful. It is 10, deuce, 3 with 2 clubs. So we have the nut flush straw and a gutter to the wheel, aka the world. So when it gets to me, I decide to bet half pot, and it's 30, and only the cutoff calls. So now the turn is not my favorite. It is the deuce of diamonds. Um, Here, I decided to size up a little bit, but I really think that this is a spot where I should be going monster with value and as semi bluffs and bluffs. So I only bet 55. I think here would have been a perfect time to go like to 90, but as played, that's the bet I make, and he sticks in the call. So now the river is a 5. So I river second pair on this board. I really was thinking about blasting off because I don't think that my 5 is good enough showdown value, but I also don't think with the way the board looks that he would fold a 10. And so I decided to go ahead and check it through, and we actually end up winning. The cutoff shows he had ace 3 of diamonds. So he also had a pair and a backdoor flush draw. He turned the nut diamond draw, and then he bricked out, and we win with just a pair of 5s. So that was actually pretty crazy, and that was a very big pot to only have a pair of 5s be the winner. So great to see that happen, and this actually was one of the hands that got us back into the positive for this session. And so we're off to the last hand of this session, so let's go. All right, so this is the last hand of this session, and we have 5-6 of clubs, 6-5 of clubs, however you want to say it. We are in the small blind. I call a button raise to 10, and we are off to a flop, which comes ace jack 7 with 2 clubs. So he bets 10. I could be deciding to put in a raise, but if he has top pair, he's not going to fold it. So I just want to try to see if I can realize my equity. And now the turn is a 6. And so when he checks to me here, I have a pair and a flush draw now. So of course I have a lot of outs even if he does have an ace. So I'm going to size up to 30, which is close to pot. And he thinks about it for a second. He shows that he had a jack, and he said that if I would have bet a little bit less, he would have called, but didn't really particularly want to call unless you're going to tell me that I'm going to hit my flush or 2 pair. And then, yeah, of course, I want him to call. But either way, I'm happy to take down this pot. And after this, I decided I'm going to go ahead and get up and leave. But wait, we have some bonus hands. Alright, so in this bonus session, I was driving by the casino. I wasn't even supposed to stop by, but I said, hey, I got 45 minutes, so I came here, and I got into 2 interesting hands in that time. So we're looking down at ace 10 off on the button. There's 2 limps ahead of me, and I decided to raise it up to 20. The small blind calls, the low jack decides to go all in for less, and the cutoff comes with us. So we're off to a flop, which comes deuce, 3, 4. And when it checks to me, I could be putting a bet with 2 overs and a gut shot to the straight, but I check it through, and the river comes the 5 of diamonds. So we hit our straight, but one thing to note is that a 6 would make the higher straight. And there's also a flush draw. So when the small blind decides to bet 35, the cutoff calls, I'm already thinking about folding here. Somebody could have a 6, but I think I just can't quite let go of my hand quite yet, and definitely I'm not going to raise. So I call, and the river is the worst card possible. It is the 8 of diamond. And so now the backdoor flush draw got there, and it's even worse when small blind decides to lead out for 125. The cutoff thinks about it for not even that long, and he calls, And so I'm definitely folding. This is an easy, trivial fold. The reveal is that small blind has ace 3 of diamonds, so he backdoored the nut flush, and the cutoff had 10-6 of diamonds, and so he turned the higher straight and river the flush, but it is no good, and I'm glad I got out of there. My only question to you guys and girls is, do you think that I could have got away from this hand on the turn, or you think it's a mandatory call there? Let me know in the comments. I appreciate that. But the next hand will not disappoint. We're going to get some of this money back. And so after that last hand, obviously, I'm in the negative a little bit. But we're looking at redemption. I have ace-jack offsuit. I didn't get the video of the hand, but just trust me, you'll see it later. So we're in the cutoff. There's 2 limps, and I decided to raise it up to 15. They both call. The flop comes ace, king, deuce. So I know I have the best hand here, and I'm pretty sure that somebody has an ace, so I'm not even going to play around with it. I'm going to bet 30 into a pot of 45. So it's a pretty large bet, but if somebody has an ace, they're never folding here. And so they both actually call. So that's still pretty good. I know I have the best ace here. So if they run me down and hit 2 pair, then so be it. And so now on the turn, it is a 7 of diamonds. And so now I bet 60. And the middle position player, he actually has a large stack. And so I think this was a mistake because the player who ends up calling, the guy in front of me, he has a smaller stack. And so what I should have bet was something along the lines of, say, 40. Because then, let's say middle position calls and my OMC in front of me decides to go all in, I could re-raise if I needed to for isolation and commit him to maybe make a bad call because he thinks I'm trying to steal it. But nonetheless, that's just a subtle detail in poker. But he folds, so that's a moot point. And now we're off to the river, which comes the 10 of clubs. And with my opponent only having 25 left, I go all in. He thinks about it for a second, and then he just says, what the hell? And then he calls, and I show my ace-jack. It is the winner, and we scoop in a nice pot. It's always good to stack an opponent. And so this actually got us into the black. And so now this was the final hand of the session. I'm going to give you a tally of all 3 sessions combined. So I will see y'all in the outro. Let's go.
All right, y'all. That's the end of the video for session number 1. Only a profit of 5. Session number 2, profit of 115. Video 3, we won a profit of 112. That's a total of 232 for the video profit. As a full disclaimer and transparency, I had another session I didn't get to record. I lost 232, and then I was at a home game where I won 800. So the new total profit for the Bankroll challenge is at $2,215, and it brings the total bankroll to $72.15. So just a little bit to go. We're about halfway there. We're going to get to 10K by the end of the month. Appreciate y'all. Like, comment, subscribe. And until the next one, holla.